You already know this, somewhere deep inside. The part of you that learned to walk before you the words. Back then, the ground was new, the air was big, and falling was just research. Every time you took a wobbling step, your nervous system said, interesting. Let's keep that one. That's learning. That's evolution's hypnosis. And it starts happening every time you bump into something unfamiliar. People say they fear the unknown, but the unknown is just the familiar wearing a new hat. The healer's job, the magician, the teacher, the channel, is to help the nervous system go, oh, I've seen this pattern before. To paint pictures so the mind can relax into what it once resisted. To hold the seat of the bicycle until the body remembers it already knows balance. Because your unconscious adores efficiency. It loves shortcuts. Smoother neural highways. Whenever it finds a better route, it locks it in. Like a GPS that updates mid-journey. That's why stories work. They let the brain rehearse new code in the sandbox of imagination. So, what was strange becomes familiar. And what's familiar becomes easy. And what's easy eventually becomes you. Imagine a child afraid of the dark. You don't fight the darkness. You switch on a lamp or teach them where the light switch is. Every fear you ever had was just your mind in a dim room, waiting for the click that says, I can see now. Fear isn't the enemy. It's the nervous system's way of saying, hey, I don't have a map for this yet. And the healer, the integrated you, creates that map. Sometimes by words, sometimes by presence, sometimes by simply staying, while another runs from the fog. Neurons fire together and wire together. When you imagine riding a bike, your motor cortex rehearses it. When you hear a story about courage, mirror neurons light up, as if you were brave yourself. The body doesn't know the difference between rehearsal and reality. It learns by simulation. That's why metaphor is medicine. It's a simulator for the soul. And every time you choose curiosity over fear, you're resculpting brain tissue. You're literally growing new dendritic branches that say, this too can be safe. And once the brain believes something is safe, the spirit can play again. There was a river that carved its way through rock for 1,000 years. One day, it met a mountain and thought, damn, that's too high. But water doesn't quit. It studies. It trickles. It seeps. It freezes. It melts. And over time, the mountain bows. That's intuition. That's healing. Not forcing the flow, but trusting the persistence of gentleness. So when you feel blocked by fear, by doubt, by the unknown, remember the river. It doesn't fight the obstacle. It becomes familiar with it, until the obstacle becomes a part of its own motion. Think of yourself as both scientist and storyteller. You observe patterns, language, breath. You pace, matching rhythm, tone, belief. Then you lead, offering a new pattern, a new picture, a new what if. When the other person's nervous system feels mirrored, it says, okay, we're safe. And once it feels safe, it can learn. You already do this when you hum a tune so someone else catches it. When you finish a friend's sentence so they feel understood. When you help a scared child tie their shoe, that's rapport. That's pacing and leading. You're not giving them your strength. You're reminding them of their own. Ignore this principle. Refuse to meet the unfamiliar, and life shrinks. The walls close in, the colours dull, the same loops play again and again. But follow it, and life expands. New neural highways open, new stories write themselves through you. You become the kind of person who others feel safer around. Because your nervous system broadcasts. It's okay to grow here. That's karma in motion, cause and effect in biology's language. Face the unknown with curiosity and you evolve. Run from it and you stagnate. Either way. Life teaches. But curiosity is the gentle teacher. So even now, parts of you are testing these ideas. Some parts of your mind might already be wondering how easily it can make the unfamiliar familiar. How each new challenge is simply the next story rehearsal. How every act of understanding toward yourself, toward others, is a small rewiring, a smoothing of the inner road. And perhaps as you go about your days, you'll notice yourself naturally translating the unknown into something usable. You'll explain instead of defend, paint pictures instead of arguments, walk beside instead of ahead, until one day you'll realize you've become the very healer that you were waiting for, the one who holds the bicycle until others remember how to ride. People fear the unfamiliar, but familiarity is only a matter of repetition and compassion. You don't need to force learning. Your unconscious is already brilliant at it. Stories like this, they're simply mirrors held up to your own intelligence. And the more you see yourself in them, the more you remember who you've always been. A learner, a healer, a guide, walking others and yourself home to what's already known.